The older I get, the more I notice that there are two ways of looking at the world. One way begins with what we don't have, and the other begins with what God has already given us. That's exactly the difference between Jesus and the disciples in today's gospel. The disciples look at the crowd and immediately begin making a list of what's missing. It's late. We're in a deserted place. We only have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. In other words, we don't have enough. And honestly, who among us hasn't felt that way? We don't have enough time. We don't have enough energy. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough answers. Sometimes we might even wonder if we have enough faith. The disciples aren't being selfish. They're simply being realistic. But Jesus sees the very same situation differently. He doesn't ask, what don't you have? He asks, what do you have? 5 loaves and 2 fish. And then he says, bring them here to me. I love that line because Jesus doesn't ask to find more bread. He simply asks them to place in his hands what they already have. I think that's how God usually works. God doesn't wait until we feel fully prepared or completely confident. God asks us to offer what we have today, even in our attempt to sing, what we have today. Before Jesus feeds the crowds, Matthew tells us something even more important. He says that Jesus was moved with compassion. He looked out, didn't simply see a crowd, he saw people. Hungry people, tired people, sick people, people carrying burdens that no one else saw but him. And that's still true today. As we gather in this chapel, each of us has come carrying something. For some, it's gratitude. For others, it's worry about a child or maybe a grandchild. It may be a difficult diagnosis, grief, loneliness, uncertainty, or simply wondering what the next chapter is. Jesus sees all of it. And he has compassion. That word literally means to suffer with. To suffer with. Jesus doesn't love us from a distance. He enters into our lives. He meets us where we are. For those of us who are part of this UP community, we see that often. A professor gives a student an extra hour after class, and that conversation changes a life. A coach believes in a young person who has stopped believing in themselves. A donor quietly establishes a scholarship. And years later, that graduate is serving in the church or the world in ways that no one could have imagined. A staff member offers a simple act of kindness that someone remembers for years. None of those people probably thought they were performing miracles. They simply offered what they had, and God multiplied it. That is the miracle. The miracle isn't only that thousands were fed. The miracle is that Jesus chose to feed them through the generosity and willingness of his disciples. And isn't that how Christ still works today? He works through people like us. People who sometimes feel they don't have enough, yet are willing to place what they do have into his hands. I also love what happens at the end of the story. After everyone has eaten, there are 12 full wicker baskets. God's generosity is never just enough. It overflows. That's the God Isaiah describes in the first reading. Come to the water. Come without pain. God's love isn't rationed. His mercy isn't measured. His grace isn't scarce. God always gives more than enough. Perhaps that's why this gospel has always meant so much to the church. Listen to what Jesus does with the bread. He takes it, he blesses it, he breaks it, he gives it. Those are the very same actions we see in just a few moments at this altar. The feeding of the 5,000 isn't simply about bread. It's pointing us towards the Eucharist. Towards the Eucharist, where Christ continues to feed hungry hearts. Every Sunday, we come here hungry. Not simply for food. We hunger for hope, for peace, for forgiveness, for reassurance that our humble lives matter. And Jesus says to each one of us exactly what he said to his disciples. Bring what you have. Bring your joys, bring your worries, bring your questions, bring your failures, bring your ordinary life, and place it in my hands. And I will do with it what you could never do on your own. That's really the lesson of Holy Cross, if we're honest. We don't wait until we have everything we need before we begin. We begin with faith. We offer our gifts, however ordinary they seem, and trust that Christ will multiply them for the good of others. So perhaps the question we carry with us this week is simply this. What are the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes that Christ is asking each of us to place in his hands? It may not seem like much to us, but in the hands of Jesus, it's always enough.